So if you're someone who genuinely loves movies and you're tired of just endlessly scrolling through a streaming platform trying to figure out what to watch tonight, I'm gonna quickly run through 6 movies across a bunch of different genres that I think are absolutely worth your time and honestly don't get talked about nearly enough. And just so you know, all the streaming availability for every movie on this list is pinned in the first comment down below, so you don't have to go hunting for it after this video. So let's get into it.
Genetics. What can it mean? The ability to perfect the physical and mental characteristics of every...
Now, I want to start with a science fiction film from 1997 that I genuinely think is one of the most underrated and underseen films of the entire decade. And this is not like, oh, it's an underrated hidden gem nobody's ever heard of. Plenty of people have heard of it, but for whatever reason, it never quite got the cultural footprint it deserved, and that drives me a little crazy. So the premise here is that we're in the near future, and genetic engineering has basically become the norm. When you're born, your DNA gets analyzed and it determines everything. Your job prospects, your health, how long you're gonna live, all of it. And if you were born naturally, the old-fashioned way, you are basically at the bottom of the social ladder. You're what they call an invalid. And our main character, Vincent, played by Ethan Hawke, is one of those people. He was born naturally, his genetics are a mess on paper, and he has this dream of becoming an astronaut, which in this world is basically the highest thing you can aspire to. So he finds a guy, Jerome, played by Jude Law, who is genetically perfect but has ended up in a wheelchair. And Vincent basically assumes Jerome's identity and uses his genetic material to get himself into this elite space program. And then the whole movie is about whether he can pull it off.
They'll recognize me.
They won't recognize me.
They'll recognize me.
I don't recognize you.
Now, I will say this movie is not an action film. It's not trying to be. It's really more of a slow burn thriller with this constant tension underneath everything. Because the stakes are very simple. One stray hair, one eyelash, one drop of sweat, and this guy's whole life collapses. That's it. And Andrew Niccol, who wrote and directed this, is really smart about how he builds that tension without ever overplaying it. There's also this murder mystery running alongside everything, which keeps it from ever feeling slow. Visually, it's stunning too, this whole retro futuristic aesthetic that really holds up. It's just a really intelligent, really well-made piece of science fiction. If you haven't seen it, search for it. You're gonna have to go find this one. That movie is Gattaca.
Go! I killed a man.
Now, my next pick is a war film, but I want to be really upfront with you. This is not your conventional war movie, and I think some people go into it expecting Saving Private Ryan and come out confused and a little frustrated. And honestly, I get that. But if you know what you're getting into, this is a genuinely fascinating piece of filmmaking. So this is Terrence Malick's 1998 film set during the Battle of Guadalcanal in World War II. And Malick does what Malick does, which is he is not particularly interested in a traditional narrative. There's a voiceover, multiple voiceovers actually, that are very philosophical and poetic, and they don't always match the character you're looking at on screen. The soldiers are kind of interchangeable. You're not going to get sharply drawn individual arcs for each guy. And the movie is more interested in these bigger questions about nature and violence and why humans do what they do. The film literally opens with a crocodile and a wounded bird, and that kind of tells you exactly where Malick's head is at. Now, having said all that, the battle sequences in this movie are genuinely great. Really visceral, really well staged. You get a real sense of the terrain and why taking this hill is such an impossible task. And there is a really interesting central conflict between a captain who thinks the whole assault plan is suicidal and a colonel who is just absolutely intoxicated by the idea of combat and doesn't want to hear it. That stuff is compelling. I will say the movie does lose me in spots. It's a long one, and the philosophical voiceover can feel like a lot when you just want the story to move. But it's a film I think is worth seeing at least once. Just don't go in expecting a straightforward war movie, and you'll be fine. That movie is The Thin Red Line. Now, before I get into this next movie, real quick, if you've been watching this channel for a while and you still haven't hit subscribe, now's a great time to do that. I make these lists every week. I put a lot of time into actually watching and thinking about this stuff, so you get recommendations from someone who genuinely cares about the movies and not just a list of titles somebody scraped off the internet. Subscribe button's right there. Like button too while you're at it. Okay, moving on. Because I want to talk about a 2021 film that is genuinely one of the most mismarketed movies of recent years. And I think that's why a lot of people either skipped it or went in with the completely wrong expectations. On the surface, the premise sounds like it could be a goofy action movie. There's a guy, he lives in the woods, he hunts truffles with his pig, the pig gets stolen, and now he's gonna go get it back. And if you hear that and your brain immediately goes to, okay, it's John Wick but with a pig, I completely understand why you'd think that. But that is not what this movie is, not even close. Nicolas Cage plays Rob, this reclusive former chef who has completely withdrawn from society and is living off the grid. And when his pig is taken, he goes back into Portland to find out who did it. And the way he deals with people throughout this movie is not through action or violence really, it's through truth.
We don't get a lot of things to really care about.
He just cuts right to the heart of who people are and what they want and what they've lost, and it is genuinely more devastating than any fight scene. Cage is extraordinary in this, I want to be clear about that. This is one of his best performances, full stop, no asterisk. Very controlled, very quiet, nothing like the meme version of Nicolas Cage you might be expecting. And there's a whole underground food world in Portland that the movie reveals piece by piece that is just fascinating and feels completely real. It's a small movie, it's a quiet movie, but it really sticks with you. That movie is Pig.
Out of the bed. That was close.
Okay, so this next one I realize is a bit of a tonal shift from everything else on this list, but I make no apologies for it because the Paddington films have consistently been some of the best family movies made in the last decade, and the third one, which came out in 2024 and hit theaters in some markets in 2025, is no exception. So in this one, Paddington goes back to Peru to find his Aunt Lucy, who has gone missing from the home for retired bears where she lives. His adoptive family, the Browns, go with him, and what unfolds is basically a jungle adventure movie. There's a mysterious map, a lost city of gold, the Amazon River, and a whole cast of colorful characters including Antonio Banderas as this multi-generational treasure hunter who takes them through the Amazon on his boat. Now, I will say the plot itself is kind of the least important thing here. What this movie is really selling is charm and warmth, and just the feeling of watching really good actors having a great time. And it absolutely delivers that. Olivia Colman plays the Reverend Mother at the home for retired bears, and she commits to the bit completely, and every single scene she's in is a joy. Antonio Banderas is clearly having the time of his life. Hugh Bonneville and Emily Mortimer are doing their perfectly stiff upper-lipped British thing, and it works like it always does. And Ben Whishaw as the voice of Paddington is just irreplaceable at this point. It's a feel-good movie, genuinely, not in a hollow way, in the way that actually makes you feel good. If you've got kids, great. If you don't, also great. That movie is Paddington in Peru.
Challenges. Kung Fu without honor.
Now, my next pick is a 2020 film that came out pretty quietly during the pandemic era, didn't get a massive theatrical push, and I think just kind of slipped past a lot of people without getting the attention it deserved. And that's a shame because this is a genuinely entertaining and surprisingly heartfelt movie. So this is an Asian American martial arts film, written, directed, and edited by Tran Quoc Bao, and it centers on three guys who used to be students of a martial arts master, the Three Tigers they were called, who come back together after years apart when their Sifu is murdered. They're trying to find out who did it, and the catch is they're all out of shape, out of practice, dealing with their own life stuff. Danny's a divorced workaholic, Hang is overweight, Jim's in decent shape, but he's kind of lost touch with the actual teachings. So these guys who used to be genuinely skilled martial artists are now kind of a mess, and watching them try to navigate this investigation while also reckoning with who they've become is really the soul of the film.
Okay, go. I know. Hold on. What are you doing at 3 points?
The fight choreography, I will say, is legitimately excellent. Ken Quitagua did the choreography, and there's a real creativity to it, like the fights actually reveal character. You learn things about these people through how they move and how they fight. That's not easy to pull off, and this movie does it well. The comedy is broad sometimes, a few jokes get run into the ground if I'm being honest, but the ensemble chemistry between the three leads makes it work. And it ends with a rooftop fight followed by everyone sitting down to dim sum, which is honestly a perfect ending. Just a really fun, really likable movie. That movie is The Paper Tigers. And my top pick on this list, and this one's sitting at number 1 because it is genuinely one of the most underseen war films of the last several years, and I don't think it's even particularly close.
So this is also based on a true story, and I'll be upfront, yes, I have 2 war films on this list, but they're doing very different things. This one is much more intimate. It's really a movie about a friendship, a deep, costly, genuine friendship between 2 men who come from completely different worlds and who have to figure out how to look out for each other inside of a system that is working against them. The aerial sequences are thrilling, the cinematography is beautiful, but those things are almost secondary to just the relationship between these 2 people. And there is a marriage at the center of this film that is portrayed with so much specificity and warmth that it almost catches you off guard. You feel like you've been let in on something real. Now, I will say this is a movie that kind of asks you to meet it halfway. It's not a flashy film. It doesn't try to manipulate you emotionally with big swelling music and slow motion heroes. It just presents the story with confidence and trusts you to feel what you feel, and I respect that a lot. The performances across the board are really strong. Jonathan Majors and Christina Jackson in particular are just incredible to watch. If you have any interest at all in the story of Jesse Brown and what he meant not just to the military but to the country, I think you owe it to yourself to watch this one. That movie is Devotion. And that is the full list. And again, all the streaming availability is in that first pinned comment, so you know exactly where to find these. Now, if you want something to watch next, our next video is going up shortly, and it is a good one. We're going into Tubi, and I know Tubi gets a bad reputation, but buried under all of it are 6 genuinely dark and well-made crime films that most people have completely scrolled past. We're talking a brutal revenge thriller that I think is one of the best of its kind, a Harvey Keitel performance that honestly pushes the crime genre about as far as it can go, a survival story that'll make you realize real people are far more terrifying than any fictional monster, and a few more that are just as good. If any of that sounds interesting, that video is up now. Go watch it after this. And as always, if you haven't subscribed yet, do that now. I'll keep making these as long as you keep watching them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.